Good morning, Real Estate Stacy here in Coffee and Convos. So today is my second part about assumable mortgages. So I actually just wrote an article about this yesterday and I posted it on my website. So I'll give you a link to that. So if you want to read this, you can definitely do that. And this will give you an in-depth knowledge about assumable mortgages, why you'd want to have one, what they're all about, what's great about them, maybe some negative things that are also not so fun about it, and kind of the ins and outs of the whole process. Because as you can imagine, it's not a cut and dry, like where you get pre-approved from a lender and get your pre-approval letter, go look for houses, and then done. It's a completely different process where, you're already have a loan. The lender just has to qualify the buyer to be able to take over that, to assume that mortgage. And so one of the main things that I was thinking of when I was thinking, okay, so let's say you have a VA loan and you want to have someone that doesn't have a VA eligibility, just a standard civilian that doesn't have that, to take over your VA loan. How would that work? And so basically what that would be, let's say, so the buyer doesn't have the VA eligibility. What you do is you basically just let them use yours. And so what that means for you is your VA loan is now, your eligibility is tied into that house until it's paid off. So even though you have someone new assuming that mortgage, your VA eligibility is tied to that house still. So you're not able to go and buy another house and get a new VA loan. Well, as far as the laws are right now, they still have, you can just have one with that. But that way your buyer can have it whether or not they have the VA eligibility. Now, if you have a buyer that is a veteran or active military or surviving spouse that qualifies, so then you don't have to worry about that because they're going to use their own eligibility to do that. And then when you can just go and move on to your next house, and once you're removed from that, then you can go and get a new house. So there's some ins and outs to that. And of course, when you're going through the process, talking to your lender about their specific parameters is definitely key here, because it's not the same for every single lender. It's similar and it's got, the same bone structure to it, but it's going to be the little nuances. You have to really abide by what your lender is saying. So with that, this is why a lot of people say, oh, don't even look into assumable mortgages because it's a lot of work. But I find that really, even though it's a little bit more extra work, can be a huge selling point to your house, especially right now when people are running around saying they can't afford houses at 7.5% versus 2.5%, 3%. There's just a huge difference. So, because for me, what I use is the mortgage, the rule of thumb, where for every 100,000, let's say if interest rates were at 5%, that would be $500. So if you had a $500,000 house, that would be 500 times 5, because you're doing 500s, and that would be $2,500 a month. Now, if you had an interest rate at 7.5%, now you're talking $750 for every 100,000. And that times 5, if it's a $500,000 house, goes to $3,750. So you're almost paying, double what it is for the 25 versus the 37. Well, I mean, not quite double, but you know what I'm saying. It's quite a bit more. Now, if you had a 2.5% interest, let's say, that's $250 for every 100,000. So a $500,000 house is only $1,250 a month. So if you're talking $1,250 versus $3,750, that's a huge difference that you're paying per month that your buyer could utilize and either bank or have other bills to pay, or be able to now afford a mortgage because they can't afford a $3,700 payment. They can afford most certainly a $1,200 payment because their rent is $1,800. So it really could be a key selling feature to your home. And another thing I was thinking of when I was like, okay, so what happens? You assume the mortgage, now what? Doesn't the seller the whole point in selling your house is to get equity to sell your house for more than you bought it, so you can take that money that you earned from the sale and go buy your new house. But how can you do that with an assumable mortgage? Because they're just taking over the loan. They're not increasing the loan amount to the new current sales price. You're just taking over what's already there. So if you, let's say, had that $500,000 house that you bought it at, maybe you put $50,000 into it, so it was you only owed $450,000. But now market's increased and changed, so now you want to sell your house for $600,000, and your mortgage is only at $450,000. How do you bridge that gap as a buyer? So there's two ways to do this. And the first way is the easiest way, which is just having a down payment for that extra $150,000. So this would typically be a little bit easier for buyers that are either moving up or moving down, or they have equity already in a current house, about $150,000, or maybe they have $100,000 in equity and maybe $50,000 in savings, or however they want to do that. So they could just put that chunk of change down as the down payment and then just be able to reboost their savings account because they're saving so much on their monthly payment. Then there's another way where you can do like a second mortgage, home equity loan, home equity line of credit, different things like that that can give you that payment for the extra $150,000. And yeah, you're going to be paying a little bit more interest at the current interest rates. Usually for a second mortgage and all of those, they're a little bit riskier for the lender to provide to borrowers. So your interest rate's going to be a little bit higher than what the rate is now. And if rates are already at 7.5%, if you're paying 8-9%, it can be really stressful. But again, you're only paying it for that $150,000 instead of your entire mortgage of, $600,000 or whatever you do minus your down payment. So you're really saving quite a bit of money every month by having an assumable mortgage and paying that second mortgage, even at the higher interest rate. So these are the kinds of the things that I'm talking about in my article, so you can know a little bit more in depth about all the different things. And if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. I'll also have that down in the notes. And you guys have a great day. Bye.